for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
And I'm Katy Steele, filling in for Jack Prince.
Thank you again for joining me today, Katy.
Always my pleasure.
Appreciate it. Hello to Jack Prince, wherever you are out there. Hopefully
Hi,
you'll be returning soon. Boy, have we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to focus mostly on the happenings in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And we'll get right into that right off the top of the show. Before we get going into our program today, though, a couple of reminders that you can follow us on social media. You can go to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us at youtube.com. Search for Southpaws Radio there. You can follow us at Tumblr, southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com. Do a search for Southpaws there. You can find us at Apple Podcasts by searching for Southpaws. And once you've found our logo, you found us. Links to our podcasts are posted to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Tumblr accounts. And you can listen to the show on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI-FM in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and Global Community Radio Channel 1. We're on every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Make sure you listen to us there as well. So, I really don't know where to begin this one.
I think I do.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, it's not anything I guess we didn't all see coming. When you see all these armed people showing up to protests, and they're all, spreading this message that the protesters are the terrorists and that they need to protect businesses and property, it's only going to be a matter of time before you've got some Nazi that decides to be a vigilante, right?
Exactly. And let me just stress something we've said on this show and we'll continue saying on this show. Property damage is not violence.
Exactly.
Period. End of story.
It is not. It is not. We need to protect each other, not property. It's not the same thing. Humanity is not material. It's
exactly.
So on top of that, I think the second issue that is causing this to get worse and worse is that the police are helping them. Mm-hmm. They are not in any sense or way attempting to be ahead of the game and protect anybody. What they're doing is actually working with them, and that's what this situation really exposed, I think, because it came out on social media immediately that the police had actually been, encouraging these armed vigilantes. There's videos of the actual armed militia guys talking on Facebook. There's a woman named Rose Nava who posted a video 2 days ago, and she's talking about how this is a setup. And she is playing this guy's video, and he actually says that the police came down and told them. I'll read her post word for word. This is what it says. Mm-hmm. She said, social media, this was reposted by Lee Ann Gill. She says, social media is way ahead of the sheriff's department with a lot of video out there. Video of the sheriff's department actually thanking the armed white militia guys for the help, pushing the protesters away from the brick buildings and into the neighborhoods where a white armed 17-year-old opens fire and kills 2, wounds 1. These people were staging in Paddock Lake at Old Settlers Park. I drove by them. I saw them. Community State Bank parking lot filled with these people last night. Pictures, videos, it's all out there. Video of armed guys telling white people what the cops told them to do, what the plans are. Cops' plans to push the protesters into the neighborhoods so they, the white militia guys, can take care of them, referring to the protesters. And people are actually thanking the sheriff, she said, with a question mark. So these are people that live there. They live in Kenosha. They were driving around beforehand. They have videos of the cops giving water to these armed right-wing militia guys, thanking them through the loudspeakers on their tanks. Mm-hmm. We really appreciate you guys, the officer says.
Yeah. And not only that, the day after the shootings perpetrated by Kyle Rittenhouse, a deputy I believe it was the deputy chief of police for Kenosha, Wisconsin, blamed the protesters.
Oh,
they
yeah.
shouldn't have been out after curfew.
Right. But if you actually, did you see the video of this guy surrendering to the police? Arms
And they drove
up.
past him.
They drove past him and let him walk. This guy ended up going home.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, if it had been a black man walking towards those police officers, they would have shot him dead just for that alone.
Exactly. Let's go back to the beginning of this. This all started Sunday night when Kenosha police were called to a fight. This man, Jacob Blake, is a 29-year-old African-American man, was trying to break up the fight. The cops asked him for a statement, and he refused to give one. It's his right to. Sorry, you don't have to talk to the police. So they tried stopping him, apparently by using a taser, and when that didn't work, as soon as he got to his vehicle, the cops shot 7 times at him. Apparently he was struck 4 of those times. One of those bullets hit him in his spinal cord. He is now paralyzed from the waist down. And they shot this man in front of his kids.
7 times in the back.
In the back. His crime was not wanting to give a statement after he broke up a fight between 2 women.
That is not a crime. So there was no crime. There was no crime.
Yeah.
They just shot him because he was black and they could.
Exactly.
And so anybody right now who straps on their uniform, puts on that badge, sticks their gun in their holster, gets in their cop car, had to hold back some swear words
or
there.
their armored car.
They are doing that with complete and full knowledge that they can gun down innocent black people and get away with it.
Exactly.
And if they can do that right there, that action, going to work, knowing that they have that right, and knowing that their brothers that they're protecting have that right, they're trash. They're scum.
Mm-hmm.
Like their silence is violent, and they're all part of the problem. That's how I feel about it.
Yep. I've posted a meme on my personal Facebook page. It's 2 cops pointing their guns at, I'm assuming this is supposed to be Jacob here, Jacob Blake.
Jacob Blake.
And he's got 7 bullet holes in his back. And also in the meme, Kyle Rittenhouse is walking past with his left arm up and his gun, his AR-15 style rifle in his right arm, walking past the cops like nothing happened.
And was that a meme or an actual real life shot?
Because no, that's a meme.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And I've had people that, these are people that I've went to school with, these are people I've known for a long time, justifying the shooting by Kyle Rittenhouse. Oh, well, the protesters shouldn't have been out there. I'm sorry, they have a First Amendment right to protest. Sorry.
Yes.
Period. It's in the Constitution.
Gunning people down? When did we start justifying gunning people down?
Mm-hmm.
What reality is that? I'm just so mind blown at the world we're in right now.
I've got several memes. Here's another one I posted. If the first thing you do when you hear about a black man being shot by police is look for a criminal record so your brain can justify the shooting, you might be a racist.
Maybe.
Not might be. You are a racist. I'll just call it right there. Yeah. No, what pissed me off was a friend of mine, I've known her since high school. I finally kicked her off my Facebook page because I was sick of the conservative crap.
I'm done. I'm done with everything.
Posted about Tennessee has apparently now passed legislation, which, by the way, I'm sure will be challenged in court, threatening sanctions against protesters, including jail time, etc., etc. If you commit any sort of what they consider violence during a protest, you're going to be charged automatically with a felony, stripped of your voting rights, etc., etc. So I posted on my Facebook, I said, one more gone. If you're just blindly S-ing the D of the cops, get out. And I'm being nice saying that.
Yeah. I mean, was it the Kenosha police chief who was saying that he blamed him for being out past curfew, right?
Yeah, it was the deputy chief.
Yeah, I mean, court over and over and over has upheld the fact that people are allowed to protest. I don't understand how we are allowing the chief of police in departments all over the country to tell us that they are going to ignore the Constitution. We no longer have those rights. And everybody is just laying down with their ARs in their hands going, okay, can you want anything else? Any more rights you want to take from us? Just don't take our Second Amendment right.
Here's another one that I unfollowed because they posted this. If you just follow police instructions, you won't be shot. My response... Tell that to Philando Castile.
Tell that to Breonna Taylor.
Exactly. And I actually got into an argument. Well, I didn't get into an argument, but a friend of mine responded that Breonna Taylor was sleeping. What instructions should she have followed?
In her bed. Come on.
She was in her bed, and then another friend said, I usually don't get into these things because there have been outright murders committed by the police. I will not deny that. I am simply here to attempt to correct a bit of misinformation, which is really not important, because it doesn't take away from the deadly mistakes that the police continue to make. But Breonna Taylor was not asleep. And she
my God.
She posted a screenshot of a CNN article. Now let me read the top part. Let me read the first paragraph. Taylor had been watching a movie in bed together with her boyfriend Kenneth Walker when she drifted off to sleep beside him. Right there it is. She was asleep.
As if it mattered if she was watching a movie or asleep. Why did that lady even type? Why did she type? Because she had to justify the murder of a black woman. Why? So she could sleep tonight. And that's how she sleeps. That's good enough for her. That's the problem with half the world.
One of my longtime listeners responded to her. What a nonsensical comment. She was awakened by cops battering down her door and therefore was not sleeping when she was shot 8 times. You need to pick a message and stick to it. See, this is how we think. Oh my God, they killed this woman while she laid in her bed. How horrible. This is how they think. Sure, she was slaughtered in her own home, but she was really awake when she was slaughtered. So, see the difference? We do.
Oh my gosh.
And by the way, thank you, Jamie, for responding to that. I really do appreciate it.
I can't wrap my head around this world. Like, you know, if any of these things were to happen to one of these people, they would call on the whole world for justice. You know, they would all want justice. So the fact that they're so willing and able to justify any kind of violence against anybody else is just disgusting.
So after the Kenosha police shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times and paralyzed him from the waist down, started protests. A lot of protests.
Yeah, a few protests.
So then, when did this happen? Was it Wednesday? It happened Tuesday night. He was taken into custody Wednesday.
Yeah.
So Tuesday night, this 17-year-old punk by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, no, we're not calling him a kid because he's being charged as an adult under Wisconsin law, drives. He didn't drive, actually. His mommy drove him from Illinois into Wisconsin. So transporting a firearm across state lines is illegal in this country. It's illegal under Illinois law. It's illegal under Wisconsin law. So that he could join these militias in the quote-unquote defending the property in Kenosha, property he doesn't own. So the 17-year-old is open carrying an AR-15 style rifle, which, by the way, you have to be 18 years old to open carry in the state of Wisconsin. So he broke the law there. This is a 2-time lawbreaker. Goes and kills 2 protesters and maims a third. This third person lost their arm over this shooting. Literally lost their arm. I want to read this. This is Sarah Volpenheim writing for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. This is dated August 27th. 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse has been charged with first-degree intentional homicide and 5 other charges for the shootings of 3 people, 2 of whom died in Kenosha on Tuesday night. Rittenhouse was taken into custody Wednesday in Illinois, where he lives in Antioch, southwest of Kenosha, and was awaiting extradition to Wisconsin on Thursday. The charges were filed Thursday in Kenosha County Court in a complaint that details how Rittenhouse used an AR-15 style rifle to shoot and kill 36-year-old Joseph Rosenbaum and 26-year-old Anthony Huber and injured 26-year-old Gage Grosskreutz shortly before midnight along Sheridan Road, where protesters went after being expelled from Civic Center Park during clashes with law enforcement. Oh, and that's the other thing I want to bring up with this story. Now there's people that are justifying this shooting by talking about the supposed criminal records of the 2 dead and the injured third person. If you do this, you're a scumbag. You're worse than a scumbag.
This kid didn't have time to go through their criminal history. All right. He didn't shoot him for that. He shot him because he liked it. He did it for sport. That's the problem. These people are hunting for sport.
And you know what Rittenhouse wanted to be?
A cop?
A cop, exactly.
He is a cop. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's pictures of him dressed as a cadet, you know, with the entire cop uniform on, standing with his mom, all proud.
Mm-hmm. Continuing in the story, under Wisconsin law, Rittenhouse is charged as an adult. Kenosha was under siege for 3 days after under siege. Let me just rephrase that.
Siege. They were under siege when this little vigilante started shooting people down in the street. That's when the siege started. Which the sick part, the night before that, the headlines were bracing for an evening of unrest. Okay, that's what they kept saying. They were bracing for an evening of unrest, and I'm like, what does that mean? They're getting their guns ready?
Let me rephrase this here. Kenosha had protests for 3 days after a video went viral of the shooting of Jacob Blake, a black man, by Kenosha police officer Rustin Shesky. And by the way, they finally have identified this police officer. No charges yet. They haven't arrested him. They haven't charged him with anything. The most serious charge against Rittenhouse was first-degree intentional homicide for the fatal shooting of Huber, the second victim, who prosecutors say was shot in the chest while trying to pull Rittenhouse's gun from him. Yeah, he was pulling the gun away from him because he just saw him shoot.
And in the video,
Rosenbaum.
The cops were shooting him with rubber bullets, I believe, when they were trying to get the kid, right? Like, the video was hard because there was a lot of different noise going on, but it looked to me like the people that were attempting to get this guy's gun away from him were being shot by the police with rubber bullets at the time.
Yeah. Rittenhouse would face life in prison if convicted of that charge. That's not good enough for me.
No, not.
Nope. Sorry, I'm a supporter of the death penalty. Fry this little bastard's ass. Period.
I don't know. I feel like him and that Rustin guy could probably keep each other company for a while, and we could get real creative.
They're gonna have to watch each other's back in prison.
That's what I'm saying.
Guess what? Prisoners don't like cops, and if you're a cop, you go in prison. You get into general, you ain't gonna last very long. In the first shooting, which occurred a minute and a half earlier, he faces a first-degree reckless homicide charge. Rosenbaum was shot multiple times in the car lot at 63rd Street and Sheridan Road. The complaint says Rosenbaum suffered gunshot wounds to the groin, back, and hand. He had a graze wound on the right side of his forehead and a superficial wound on his left thigh, the complaint says. Law enforcement had earlier said he was shot in the head. Video captured by eyewitnesses at the scene shows Rosenbaum, who the complaint says was unarmed, was chasing Rittenhouse through the car lot. Rosenbaum is seen throwing something toward Rittenhouse, which the criminal complaint says was a plastic bag. Yeah, he had his personal effects in this plastic bag to protect him from, water cannons, tear gas, etc., etc. A witness told investigators Rittenhouse shot the man when he grabbed for Rittenhouse's gun. Well, yeah, this kid was going around threatening people.
Yeah.
After the shooting, Rittenhouse is seen on video putting a phone to his ear and saying he shot somebody. According to the complaint, he called a friend who later spoke to a detective about the call. After that shooting, Rittenhouse ran north on Sheridan Road, pursued by a handful of people, according to eyewitness video. Some people were shouting, "He shot him!" Someone else said, "Get him! Get that dude!" according to the complaint. Rittenhouse tripped and fell to the ground near 61st Street, where eyewitness videos show he shot Huber fatally and then Grosskreutz, who is expected to survive. According to videos, interviews, and social media posts, Rittenhouse fancied himself a member of a militia aiming to protect life and property. Rittenhouse is seen in a video with armed men who said they were protecting a car lot in Kenosha. Rittenhouse also faces 2 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety and 1 count of possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under the age of 18.
Not enough. Where's the terrorism charges? Where's the hate crime? Where,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this should be a hate crime. Although a friend of mine did make a point. They don't want to see him charged at the federal level because if he's convicted on the federal level, guess who could pardon him of everything?
Right. I'm kind of caught up in that because I was trying to understand why they were extraditing him from one state to another when he should have had federal charges originally. It didn't make sense to me, but that is a silver lining of him not having them for sure.
Yep. Yeah, this is just disgusting. But this isn't unexpected. We knew this was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, and they want it to happen, and that's the thing. I don't believe these police shootings are just these rogue cops that are the bad ones, you guys. This is an actual culture that this is how they're taught to respond, is to kill black people.
It is. That's exactly what the culture is. From day one of training.
Yeah, and they justify it, and they use their words discretion, and they convince each other that they had to do it, and they're helping society, and then...
Once again, if you don't believe us, you need to go view the article that was written by a now former police officer at medium.com, Confessions of a Bastard Cop. You really need to read it, folks, if you haven't already.
Oh, it's bad. And, I mean, they're talking about the cadet program a lot on Facebook because this kid was, a wannabe cop, and I heard people arguing about, well, he couldn't have been a cadet. He wasn't old enough, this and that. Not everybody knows it, but we've got a cadet program here in West Michigan. It's called the Cub Cadets. This is like a 5th grade through, it's literally the age of children that are the most vulnerable to being molested, of course. It's a boys-only cadet club, okay? There's no girls invited. It's like a boys' summer camp, And then what do? I'm sure they just take them in the woods where they teach them to be racist.
The He-Man Woman Haters Club,
But yeah, we're training them young over here to be pro-cop and anti-black. It's sick.
Yeah. And it's not just Kenosha where the cops are out of control. It's elsewhere. I've got this. This is Steve Nieveling writing for Detroit Metro Times. This article is dated August 25th. Legal observers say Detroit police targeted and assaulted them during a protest over the weekend, pepper spraying them and severely beating another with a baton while they stood on a sidewalk. A National Lawyers Guild observer was also among 44 people who were arrested at a demonstration against the influx of federal agents as part of Operation Legend early Sunday morning. Operation Legend, yeah. Obviously, Trump named that one because he's a legend in his own mind. The National Lawyers Guild Detroit and Michigan chapter said in a statement that the actions were, quote, outrageous, unlawful, and unconstitutional. One DPD officer beat a legal observer so severely with his baton that she could not move. When 2 other legal observers...
Sorry, I have to interrupt you. A police officer used a baton to beat a female legal observer. This woman was not hurting him. She was not attacking him. A police officer beat a woman. Bottom line right there, we should all be concerned. Sorry, go ahead.
When 2 other legal observers attempted to remove the injured LO out of harm's way, another officer deployed pepper spray directly in all 3 of their faces. End of quote. Shannon McEvely, one of the legal observers, tells the Detroit Metro Times she was shoved by a cop while she was standing on a sidewalk, quote, so I was unable to observe the arrest taking place. End of quote. Soon after, she said she was maced and struck with a shield while her arms were up. She and another legal observer were repeatedly struck with a baton. All of them were wearing neon green hats emblazoned with the words National Lawyers Guild Legal Observer.
These people were at work. They were doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. They were doing their job. You can call them protesters if you want, but they were not protesters.
No, they were making sure the cops didn't do anything
and they
illegal.
got savagely beaten by our own Detroit Police Department. This could be you.
McAvilly, who still has bruises from the attack, said, quote, the 2 of us who were not hit with batons put our arms around the legal observer who was trying to get her to safety, which is when we were maced. At no point were we not in our extremely bright neon green hats. End of quote. The local chapter of the National Lawyers Guild has observed demonstrations in Detroit for decades. Their role is to neutrally observe and document police behavior to ensure protesters' First Amendment rights are not violated. At a press conference Monday, when asked about the treatment of legal observers and reporters, Detroit Police Chief James Craig was defiant. He suggested legal observers and reporters may be arrested if they don't leave a protest when officers begin using force.
Completely unconstitutional.
A position that courts have long said was unconstitutional, as you just said, Katie. Earlier this month, for example, a federal judge said law enforcement in Portland cannot arrest journalists and legal observers for documenting protests. Detroit police have come under fire after videos of the protests circulated on social media. Cops were seen using batons, pepper spray, tear gas, and shields to plow through protesters standing on Woodward Avenue. At least 5 protesters were taken to the hospital.
Hospitalized.
State Senator Stephanie Chang and U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib are calling for an investigation into the department's handling of the protest. Craig defended his officers' handling of the protest, suggesting demonstrators were trying to set up a protest zone like the one in Seattle.
Oh, you mean they were trying to actually, practice and use their First Amendment rights?
Mm-hmm. Craig told reporters, quote, "I am not going to let any group set up a Seattle-type zone of lawlessness here in the city of Detroit. That is non-negotiable."
Too late.
End
Look
of
at your
quote.
police department. Look at your police department. You want to talk about a center of lawlessness.
Yep. At the press conference, Deputy Chief Todd Bettison was more blunt, telling protesters, quote, "You are not welcome here. Go. It's just not working." End of quote. Protesters vowed to stay the course and said Monday they plan to file a lawsuit against the police department. Yeah, they need to bankrupt the police department.
Yep.
Get rid of them. Fire them all. Get rid of them. Because they're all bastards. All cops are bastards.
Every single one of you.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable, folks. You know, here was the thing. This morning, I was watching the Today Show. By the way, we're recording on Friday, August 28th, 2020. This morning on the Today Show, they showed a clip of Joe Biden talking in response to Trump's speech accepting the nomination again for the Republicans. Joe Biden said it very succinctly. Donald Trump is rooting for violence.
Exactly.
And he's been that way since he ran in 2015.
He admires the most autocratic and fascist dictators on the planet. He doesn't just admire them. He's built relationships with them. Mm-hmm. He's networked with them. He's empowered them. And that's what he strives to be. He wants to be like Xi from China. He wants to be like Netanyahu. He wants to be like North Korea and Kim Jong-un. He wants to be like the worst of the worst. So I hate Joe Biden. Don't get me wrong. I have no I can't say I know the man personally, but I have no respect for most of the policy decisions I've seen him make. I think he owes us a hell of a lot more than anything he's ever given us. But he does not put fascism on a pedestal, okay? He is not ready to unleash the military on every innocent person in the country. And he doesn't have the power to do it if he were. He's the guy I want to go up against.
Yeah. Yeah, here's what I put on my personal Facebook this morning. I said, Biden said that Trump is rooting for more violence. He's correct. Trump thrives on violence because that's his base. Violent Trump-tards like the 17-year-old bastard who illegally transported a gun across state lines to illegally open carry the same gun he used to murder 2 protesters and maim a 3rd. That's his effing base. Y'all better wake up to this, and if you still support Trump, F you.
I've got people calling for him. I've read that people are calling for him to be their next president. The guy that just shot all the protesters. Mm-hmm. This violent kid who's just ready to gun down anybody that disagrees with him. She wants that to be our next president.
I tell you what, shall we get into our next segment here? We might as well. In order to do so, we do need to play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer time!
Oh yeah, it's hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. We've got 2 of them this week. And so, anytime we have 2 of them, we also have to play this.
Double douche.
Who is that guy?
Gentlemen, Wade Garrett.
Holy sh**.
Exactly right.
All right. Yep, 2 of them today. The first one is former Major League Baseball player Aubrey Huff, who has won Douchebag of the Week before on this show. I have this story from the New York Post. I'm not even going to try and butcher this poor reporter's name here. This was published on August 27th. World Series champion Aubrey Huff praised the 17-year-old gunman charged with killing 2 protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The ex-San Francisco Giant tweeted Wednesday night this, quote, hashtag Kyle Rittenhouse is a national treasure, end of quote.
Oh, puke.
Yeah, Huff's post, which garnered more than 2,700 likes and 1,165 retweets and comments, drew a mixed reaction of disgust and support before it was deleted Thursday morning. The 43-year-old dad of 2 who helped lead the Giants to their 2010 World Series win has made headlines before for his controversial tweets. In January, after the Giants promoted Alyssa Nacken to assistant coach, making her the first full-time female assistant coach in Major League Baseball history, Huff tweeted, quote, this has hashtag Me Too and hashtag Believe All Women written all over it. Only in at SF Giants, end of quote. He also posted, quote, couldn't imagine taking baseball instruction from an ex-female softball player, end of quote. So he hates women too, other than to spawn his little demons,
right,
and make his dinner and weigh it on him hand and foot.
Oh, he's gonna suffer a long, miserable life after saying some stuff like that in public.
Yeah. Huff's social media activity got him excluded from the Giants' 10-year World Series reunion in February, with the team saying his views were, quote, unacceptable and run counter to the values of our organization, end of quote. He said he was shocked and disappointed over the decision, but blew it off. He told The Athletic, quote, if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be having a reunion. But if they want to stick with their politically correct progressive bullshit, that's fine. End of quote. Yeah. I believe Aubrey Huff is the same guy that was talking about teaching his kids how to shoot guns so they could go after protesters.
I knew that name.
Yeah.
Trash.
Rittenhouse was charged Wednesday with first-degree intentional homicide for allegedly fatally shooting one man in the head and another in the chest in Kenosha, Wisconsin the night before. We mentioned all that. So there's winner number 1. Winner number 2, Michigan Congressman Representative Bill Huizenga, Republican of the 2nd District. Well, what did he do? Well, he decided that he was going to go after a Wood TV reporter because she told the story about postal service machines being dismantled at the main post office in Grand Rapids and at the annex. So Huizenga went on, I'm assuming you went on Twitter. I believe this was Twitter for iPhone. No, it might have been Twitter for iPhone. But this is what he said the other day in front of the Capitol building.
There's a discussion about capacity issues, and you may have seen a very breathless local television reporter go and talk about how a sorting machine had just been thrown out and how power cords had been cut and how she was told that by an insider that this was to delay the mail. Well, guess what? That wasn't at an actual facility that sorts letters. That was at a magazine distribution center.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Because those flat sorters can also be used to sort oversized letters. Sorry, I worked those machines. I know what I'm talking about. So in response to Huizenga's video, Heather Walker responded to him. This happened on August 23rd. At Representative Huizenga, I don't appreciate the name-calling or the inaccurate summary of my report. For the facts, here's the original post and report on Wood TV, and then she posted the link to the story. So Huizenga doubled down. He said in response, well, Heather Walker, I never mentioned your name, much less Wood TV, but here we go. I watched all of the dramatics, the seeming confirmation, the assumption that your scoop was accurate and true. Is it name-calling describing that as breathless? We all simply need the truth. He got skewered for this.
Thank goodness.
Here's some of the responses. Tom Pietri wrote this on Twitter. You're giving a misleading account of one event in an attempt to disprove a nationwide verifiable dismantling of USPS capabilities. Verifiable testimony, internal metrics, widespread issues, all verified to Joy's actions. You're a coward for pretending otherwise.
You are a coward.
Yeah, here's one. Darren, not me, but his name is Darren too. He wrote this. Bro, you don't do anything but kiss the party's ass. I'm still sad Dr. Rob Davison didn't wipe you out of the house. Now, despite your ethics investigation, somehow you're still leading in the poll. Can't wait till you're redistricted. By the way, I love that anything you post on Twitter is a dud. You have 0 supporters. No one says, great job, Bill. You're ineffective. Vote the party line, and you don't seem to get where the real struggle is. People are dying. Fix it.
He won't.
No.
He's okay with it.
Another response. Joshua Kovac wrote this on Twitter. Give us actual numbers, Bill. How many machines of any kind have stopped running for any reason at any USPS facility in Michigan since January 1st? Otherwise, you're just trying to distract by either misleading, lying, or intentionally remaining and spreading ignorance. Tom Parker responded, I look forward to voting for pub theologian and having new representation in Congress in the 2nd District by a man that stands with the U.S. Postal Service and its workers. He will protect seniors, veterans, businesses, and rural Americans that depend on the delivery of their mail. Of course, the pub theologian is Brian Berghoff, who is the Democratic candidate running against Huizenga. His former opponent, Dr. Rob Davison, chimed in. Sorry, Rep. Huizenga, we trust a reporter's word over years. You used campaign donors' money to take your family to Disney World and skiing in Utah. Yeah, and again, that is a story that MLive has been following. Ethics panel investigates Huizenga's spending on Disney World trips.
If I could possibly hate that man more,
you're losing your ass on this one, Bill. You better stop while you're ahead. And by the way, Heather Walker has an update to this story. This was published August 26th. This was Wednesday. An inside source leaked photos from inside the downtown Grand Rapids post office to Target 8. The photos apparently show pieces of mail sorting machines disassembled and waiting to be removed. I'll stop there because I saw those photos. Those are mail sorting machines. That is a delivery barcode sorter sitting on the upper back dock of the United States Post Office building in downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's the dock where the carriers load up their trucks after they've hand sorted their mail, cased their mail. Sorry, worked there for 11 years. I know what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just going to say, if they say it enough times, it's true. No matter what they say, if they just keep repeating it, then they can convince everybody.
Oh, yeah. Let me continue the story here. An employee taking photos inside of any U.S. Postal Service facility could result in a termination. Postal workers told Target 8 they're fed up and decided to snap the pictures, risking their job to ensure the truth is told. The source says the 3 photos were snapped this week from the loading dock at the downtown Grand Rapids Post Office located on Michigan Street. Yeah, right here's another photo. They've got part of the machine surrounded by APCs. Some of them are empty. Some of them have mail in the APCs. APC is basically a big 2-shelved cart. They make it out of aluminum in some cases or heavier metal. You push the mail around the facility so it's processed in these carts, among other things, including cloth hampers, orange hampers.
Gotcha.
They got all sorts of different devices to cart the mail between machines and to put it on the dock and take it off the dock. Additional employees have verified the photos were taken from inside, including the president of the American Postal Workers Union Local 281, Amy Puhalski. She confirms that the photos show parts of 2 different delivery barcode sorters. The machines organize letters so that they're in order when a postal carrier drops them off. As we talked about last week on the show, it's called delivery point sorting, DPS. Yep, and right here's one. That's the front of the machine, and then there's some sorting modules that are backed up right next to it. They're right on the back dock. Again, the upper back dock of the post office, not the lower back dock where the semis come in and unload the mail from other facilities for processing and then remove that mail so that it's sent out to the stations. Pahalski says each machine runs up to 35,000 pieces of mail per hour. The union says there are 25 in the Metro Grand Rapids area. 3 have been taken offline. Target 8 was told by sources the pieces have been on the loading dock since July. Congressman Bill Huizenga toured the facility on Friday, which he said lasted an hour and covered multiple levels. Huizenga shared a video after the tour where he said, quote, I asked the question, has there been any changes over the last month? Because you're seeing a lot of this time frame getting thrown out that the White House ordered things to happen or the Postmaster General DeJoy, new on the job, has ordered machines to be dismantled. They gave me an assurance that not a single piece of machinery has been dismantled or left the building. End of quote. On Wednesday, Target 8 shared the photos with Huizenga. He responded by sending this statement, quote, I had the opportunity to tour the Michigan Avenue facility on Friday, and I was given every assurance that they were operating at full strength and did not have any operational issues. However, I did not tour what appears to be the loading dock area of the downtown facility. I have sent an additional inquiry regarding these photos to the post office leadership. This week, I also submitted questions regarding the removal of any machinery dating back to the beginning of January of this year. Additionally, I am asking the post office to clarify if any such changes were made and what, if any, impact those changes could have on their capacity to process ballots. I look forward to receiving a timely response from the post office. End of quote. The union president adds that there are parts from a third machine out on the floor of the post office. She said Huizenga should have seen those during his tour. Well, here's the thing. Huizenga said he toured multiple levels of the building. Well, then he toured the multiple levels in the front of the building, which is where the offices on the first floor is the windows for the clerks. That's where you buy your stamps and drop off your mail, etc., etc. Then the next 2 levels up above are offices for the postmaster and for other management personnel. But that's the front of the building. The back of the building is only 2 levels. So if you say multiple levels, then you didn't go on the floor, buddy. Sorry.
And, well, we know he only went there with one purpose, and it was to back up the narrative he already had in his head. You know, there was never any... He was never looking for anything, you know.
And they talk about operational issues. Have there been operational or delivery issues? I can tell you there has been, because I still have sources in that building.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't want to go into too many details, but sources within the post office have told me that mail, first and third class letters, have been deliberately delayed for some cities to make sure that mail was sent out on time for other cities. Why? Because Postmaster General Louis DeJoy said that the trucks have to run on schedule now. You can't hold up a truck anymore just to get more mail on it. Those trucks have to stay on schedule. So the workers are just doing what management tells them to do because the managers are getting this directive straight from the Postmaster General. And let me add this too. Depending on the day that you run the mail, the program changes. Because there's mail when you run Friday night's mail to be sent out to the stations on Saturday, the machines automatically hold back the mail of businesses that are not open on Saturday. That's programmed into the machines.
Okay.
So that mail has to stay behind to be run Sunday night for delivery Monday morning. So every day that you start the machine, that's a different program. So that first pass mail had to be run all over again. Otherwise, it was going to get missorted. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's just, I mean, yes, the post office has its issues. They have their lazy employees. Sorry, I was there. I saw it myself with my own eyes. I'm not a big fan of their union because they have protected people who have harassed other employees to the point of stalking people, and they protected them. Sorry, they did. I was there. But I tell you what, you still have to have a postal service.
It saves us money overall. It saves all of us money, and it gives us a service we can't get anywhere else. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to fight against our own interests. It's crazy. Yeah. And it was one of the best employers for a really long time. You were really, really lucky to have a job with the Postal Service for most of my life.
Yeah. There used to be standards.
For sure.
You used to be able to have to take a test to get hired into the post office.
You were very respected if you had a job there.
And if you scored below the score you're supposed to get, I believe if you scored 90 or above, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to get hired in. If you're below 90...
And it's a hard test.
You weren't going to get in. Yeah,
it's recognizing addresses, remembering stuff. Like I remember trying it once,
and following instructions.
Oh yeah.
the best one that I remember from taking the test, and I knew I worked with the guy who gave me the test, who administered the test. He'd start in with this oral instruction. You have 7 sacks of mail in truck 1. You have 10 sacks in truck 2. If 5 is greater than 9, mark letter B on your form. If 5 is less than 9, mark letter E on your form. That just it was stuff to throw you off.
It just didn't make sense, but they wanted you to follow the directions.
Because they want to make sure that you knew how to follow instructions before they hired you.
Interesting. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was legit. One of the questions among many that they had there. So, yeah. It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. So, for Aubrey Huff and for Representative Bill Huizenga, you two lovely people should just go somewhere and go away, far away. We have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. You both need to stop being douchebags. You both have won this award before. Just knock it off, please. I want to get somebody else in.
Exactly.
Oh
we could really use some variety here, guys.
Uh-huh. Oh. Yeah, and I've got a variety right here for you. Have you heard about this story? This is Mary Poppenfuss writing for Huffington Post. This was dated on August 22nd. Did you hear about Trump's niece, Mary Trump, with the hidden recorder?
Ooh, no, I didn't hear about
talking to her aunt. Oh my God! Let me just
do you have the recording?
Let me just go into the story here. There's bits and pieces of it. Donald Trump's sister was recorded saying that her brother, quote, has no principles, end of quote, and quote, you can't trust him, end of quote. That is according to a story published by the Washington Post Saturday.
Yeah, he's made that quite evident.
Mary Ann Trump Berry, who was serving as a federal judge at the time, made the slashing comments to her niece, Mary Trump, who was secretly recording her, again, according to the Washington Post. At one point, Berry was discussing Trump's moves in 2018 to separate immigrant children from their parents. She said this. This is Trump's sister. Quote, all he wants to do is appeal to his base. He has no principles. None. And his base, I mean, my God, if you were a religious person, you want to help people, not do this. End of quote.
Exactly. This is when they were getting together, all the DHHS and the Attorney General and Betsy DeVos, and this is when they set it up to take those kids from their parents so they could all make money off of it and he could appease his base.
Mm-hmm. She added this, quote, his goddamn tweets and lying. Oh my God, I'm talking too freely, but you know, the change of stories, the lack of preparation, the lying, holy shit. End of quote. Again, this is his own sister, a former federal judge who was still on the bench at that point, talking about her brother. Trump had earlier suggested on Fox propaganda channel that year that he might, quote, put her at the border, end of quote, and assign his sister to make immigration decisions. She guessed that he hadn't read her decisions or he would know they wouldn't likely agree on those issues. Mary Trump asked her aunt, quote, what has he read, end of quote. Berry responded, quote, he doesn't read, End of quote.
Oh, we're shocked.
At one point, an exasperated Barry said, quote, "It's the phoniness of it all. It's the phoniness and this cruelty. Donald is cruel."
Yes.
End of quote.
That's absolutely true.
Barry also noted, quote, "Donald is out for Donald. Period." End of quote. When her niece asked Barry what her brother had accomplished on his own,
Nothing.
her response, quote, "Well, he has 5 bankruptcies." End of quote.
Oh, I forgot
and
about
added,
that.
quote, "You can't trust him." End of quote. The Washington Post obtained the audio excerpts of the taped conversations after Mary Trump told the newspaper that she learned some of the information in her book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man, from 15 hours of face-to-face talks with her aunt in 2018 and 19. It was her aunt who told her that Trump had paid someone to take the SATs for him. That was Mary Trump telling that to the Washington Post.
I'm sure it's fake news.
Yeah. Let me continue here. Barry has never spoken publicly about her issues with her brother. Mary Trump told the Washington Post recently that her uncle is unfit to be president. She aims to do everything in her power to elect Joe Biden. And by the way, the Washington Post has the clips of this, so make sure you check it out. It's also been on all the networks and all over the place. So.
I mean, honestly, when his own sister is doing everything in her power to make sure he loses, that's a really big sign here, guys. I mean, who wouldn't want their brother to be president? He'd have to be pretty bad to just take anybody else over that, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I just can't believe it. I'm surprised that that she spoke out against him.
I'm terrified because that's the level of bad we're at if she's doing this, you know?
Yeah, let me get to another level of bad here. This is Ewan Palmer writing for Newsweek. This is Newsweek, folks. This ain't a liberal mag. This is Newsweek, very conservative. This was published on Monday, August 24th. White nationalist Richard Spencer has said that he will be backing Democratic candidate Joe Biden in November's election after previously distancing himself from Donald Trump. Spencer, who is one of the key figureheads of the alt-right movement, tweeted how he is on Team Joe Monday, adding in a self-made campaign slogan, quote, "Liberals are clearly more competent," end of quote. In a series of tweets, Spencer further explained his reasoning for backing Biden. Quote, "The MAGA alt-right movement is over. I made mistakes. Trump is an obvious disaster, but mainly the paradigm contained flaws that we now are able to perceive, and it needs to end. So be patient. We'll have another day in the sun. We need to recover and return in a new form." End of quote.
Oh, gosh. Why do I feel like he's going to go down in a tomb and then come back to life as a neo-Nazi?
I've got a feeling. In another tweet, Spencer added, quote, "I will never flip on my fundamental principles. My principles were never voting for the lesser of two evils or stopping big government."
Oh, my gosh. Yes, he is totally playing into the trying to play into the extreme radical left as it's characterized.
Walking into certain defeat, even death, is not heroic. It's foolhardy. I have no sympathy for martyrs. I admire winners. End of quote. God, that sounds like Trump.
That really sounds like Trump.
Yeah. The Southern Poverty Law Center describes Spencer as a, quote, "suit and tie version of the white supremacists of old." End of quote. Spencer first rose to prominence in 2016 after shouting "Hail Trump" and being greeted with Nazi salutes at an event in Washington shortly after Trump was elected. However, Spencer said earlier this year that he regrets voting for Trump following the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Spencer feared that Trump's approved airstrike, which resulted in the death of Soleimani, brought the U.S. to the brink of war with Iran. So in other words, he's against this because he's saving his own ass.
Right, exactly.
To keep from getting drafted. Yeah. Quote, "I deeply regret voting for and promoting Donald Trump in 2016. To the people of Iran, there are millions of Americans who do not want war, who do not hate you, and who respect your nation and its history. After our traitorous elite is brought to justice, we hope to achieve peace, reconciliation, and forgiveness. End of quote.
Okay, so it's about his allyship with Iran and his own business interests.
Mm-hmm. Spencer also led a protest against the Trump administration launching an airstrike on a Syrian airbase in 2017. Credited with creating the term alt-right, Spencer was also one of the main organizers of the neo-Nazi Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, at which counter-protester Heather Heyer died after being struck by a car driven by a white supremacist James Alex Fields, Jr. In a statement released on the third anniversary of the deadly rally, Biden said, quote, 3 years ago today, the world watched in horror as neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and far-right extremists with torches in hand descended on Charlottesville, Virginia, spewing the same anti-Semitic bile that was heard in Hitler's Germany in the 1930s. It was a moment of testing for our country and a wake-up call to the fact that hate never dies, it only hides. And when our leaders give it oxygen, it can come roaring back to life. And then our president claimed that there were very fine people on both sides. Donald Trump had the audacity to assign moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those who stood against it. I knew then that we were in a battle for the soul of this nation, and I knew then that I could not stand by and let Donald Trump destroy the core values of this nation. Now, 3 years later, we can see even more clearly that everything that has made America, America is at stake. End of quote. Spencer and Biden's campaign team have been contacted for comment, but did not respond. How do you respond to that?
There's I can't wrap my head around it because so much of their interests are possibly intertwined. Mm-hmm. You know, while they're both perceived as ideologically opposite, capitalism makes that impossible. That's not the world we live in. So it's really hard to tell anymore what anybody's agendas are because too many interests and, you know, too many possible agendas.
Yeah, that's unfortunately everything seems to be very intertwined these days. What do you do?
Yeah,
how do you sort through it? You can't anymore.
No, you can't. And I've tried. I follow the money, and I try to research, you know, where people are getting resources and what, you know, what they're focused on, and even looking into like who their families are and where they work and what their jobs are, because you kind of have to know, you know, where people's lives are and where their interests lie. And even that, it's impossible because you find they all go back to the same things. And then that's when you realize that too many of our Republicans and Democrats are fighting for the same thing right now.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with you there. As I wrap up the show today, I want to dedicate this episode to the memory of my father. My dad passed away 16 years ago today. And
rest in peace, yes. Darren's dad. We're glad you made him.
Yeah, my dad was a union carpenter for 42 and more years, so
nice.
What a great guy. Solidarity forever. I love you, Dad, and I miss you. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele Baroni.
And for Kristen Cook, please support independent media.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.